OK, James Sinclair, where are you sitting? Ah, there you go.
Reportedly, 1 in 3 kids in schools in Glasgow don't speak English as a first language. Why does this matter?
So this has come up, James, and I'm sure this is why you're referring to it, because Nigel Farage, your new leader, Malcolm, talked about the fact that 29% of primary school pupils in Glasgow have English as a second language, and he described it as the cultural smashing of Glasgow. Is he right, Malcolm?
Well, I wouldn't use that language, but what we're dealing with here
So what's wrong with that language? What's wrong with that language?
I know. The immigration issue we're dealing with is something which is a worldwide issue, a European issue. And it's coming at us fast, and faster than we've ever seen before. If you think about the whole of the 20th century, 1 million people came to the UK. So far in the first 25 years of this century, 7 million people have come to the UK. That's a lot of people, right? Now, we have a tradition in our country of being welcoming to people from other shores and welcome them in so long as they come in to work and contribute, learn our language, adopt our culture, adopt our values. We've got a strong tradition of that. This statistic is highlighting just the fact that this is happening faster and bigger than we've seen before. We've got a lot of people coming in from places that we don't know so well, where cultures are not so aligned. We need to integrate. We need to integrate to make our communities cohesive. And the question is, how do we do that when we've got this speed of immigration coming in, and it's costing a lot of money? If you think about Glasgow, has got 100 million black hole next year in its budget, and Glasgow councillors are saying that 2/3 of that, 66 million, is dealing with the immigration and asylum issue. That's a lot of money, and there's a lot of money being had to be paid for the people who are here already, who are welcoming and want those people to come fine, but they want to know who they are, and they want to know that they can assimilate into our culture. And the number one thing surely is we have to speak the same language.
Why are you presuming they're new migrants? Why are you presuming they don't speak English? And why are you using Glasgow children to spread your bile and poison into our communities? It's utterly shameful. And you might not agree with the language. You might not agree with the language, Lord Offord, but you need to own it, because that's what you are part of now. You are part of a political party that deliberately spends tens of thousands of pounds questioning my loyalty to Scotland and lots of other people's loyalty to Scotland. And all you really are is a poisonous, odious man hiding behind the badge of reform, looking to divide our communities rather than change our communities. And let's not forget, Lord Offord, that when I was here serving the community of Paisley as a local NHS dentist, you were an advisor to Ian Duncan Smith. You were the man that served in Boris Johnson's government and Liz Truss's government. So don't you dare try to be the great champion of working class communities in Scotland. People have seen your light before and rejected them, and I've got no doubt they'll reject them again.
Can I come back? So recent polling suggests that the top 3 issues of concern to Scots are the NHS, the economy and immigration. The politicians speaking on this topic are reflecting what the concerns that people have. That's why we're talking about it, because this is a concern that's come up quite recently, only in the last 5 years or so, and it's illustrated by the scale, the numbers. That's what's being illustrated here. As I said before, we've got a tradition of being welcoming. Of course we do. But we need to know who people are. We want them to assimilate to our culture and speak our language.
Let's fix the broken immigration system rather than picking on Glasgow kids. Yep. Let's fix the broken immigration system.
Woman here in the orange sweater.
Hi, I work in social housing, have done so for the last 20 years. And there is an issue with people that are coming to Scotland. Communities are divided, and this has all been following on from decisions made by all the political parties over that time. So it is an issue. A lot of the people that are kind of coming, they're getting all sorts of help, and this is creating resentment from established people because they see the country that they were born and bred in, they're not getting the same help. And yeah, Scotland is a friendly country, but you start creating division where you have people getting and not getting. And I have to take issue with that.
Let's hear from the audience. Man in the white shirt at the back. Yes, you, sir.
Yeah, I think the division is also related to labelling people. My wife runs an ESOL class, English for people for whom it's not their first language. And this is adults, and there are folk from Spain, from Ukraine, from Poland, from Syria, from everywhere, coming to willing to learn English. And I have to say that one of those folks is a lawyer, somebody was a primary school teacher back home, and somebody was a children's doctor. And the reality is that those three people couldn't access a job here in Scotland. They've got other work, but it wasn't in the field that they come in. So there's an issue about how to integrate and help these folk to actually come because they want to work. And one chap, as I said, the guy that's a lawyer is actually working in the hospital laundry.
Right, OK. Yes, they were wearing a pink shirt back there. Yes, yes, you.
I think the statement is bang out of order because you don't need English to be your first language to be able to communicate. I personally, English is not my first language, so if I'm feeling something, you ask me, is English your first language? I'll say no. However, I can perfectly communicate in English despite it being my third language. So I think the problem with that statement was saying it's not their first language, and who cares if it's your second or third and you can communicate with the problem. For me, it's an issue. If you can't communicate, that's fair enough. But being a third, fourth, fifth language, no problem. If you can speak it, then well and good.
OK. And listen, I should just clarify, because I said 1 in 3 primary school children. Actually, it's school children, generally. It's not just primary school children. Russell.
Yeah, well, I agree with the lady at the back. Speaking English as a second language is nothing whatsoever wrong with that. I also agree with the lady in the pink shirt who talked about a lot of communities are feeling divided. A lot of communities see services, public services at breaking point. Glasgow, in particular, due to decisions taken by the SNP government, has resulted in significantly more numbers of immigrants coming to the city at great cost. The city right now has debts of £1.6 billion, and it's going back to the earlier point about taxation. It's about how we spend our money and how we can afford it. But I think in respect of this particular issue, the much greater issue, aside from immigration, is about education. The education system in Scotland, under the past 18 years of the SNP, has been completely and utterly trashed. You've got something like 1 in 4 primary school children going into secondary school not at the required levels of literacy. In other words, they can't read or write properly. It's absolutely appalling, a national scandal. And the number for numeracy is something like 1 in 5, 20% of kids are going through primary school into secondary school, not equipped, not at the stage they should be at. And that is where we should be putting the focus.
Angela. 1 in 3 school children in Glasgow don't speak English as a first language. Why does this matter?
I have a little boy. He's 5 in Glasgow, and so he's just started school. And he had a speech delay because he was a COVID baby. And this is really common among the COVID babies. A lot of them had speech delays or other developmental delays that you wouldn't normally expect, but they're catching up with them really quickly now that life returned to normal. But that speech delay worried me because I know that there are some schools in some areas of Glasgow where you do have such a mixed population in them that the English may or may not really be a dominant language when he's going into primary 1. And I was thinking, well, is that going to affect the way that he's learning then if he already had an issue? You know, it was a very, very practical thing that just occurred to me, like, do I need to think about that? And then I very quickly realised, no, I don't really need to think about that. Kids' brains are like sponges. He would be fine. We have Gaelic schools in Glasgow, for crying out loud. In some cases, we're encouraging our children to speak languages other than English as the first language at school. So I kind of got over that. But I understand where the lady talked about communities that are concerned about the way that their communities are changing and the way that services are being used and who has access to those services. I think these are normal concerns to have when the makeup of your communities are changing, when you have immigrants coming into those communities, whether that be immigrants who are coming in because they're seeking a different, better way of life, or it could be asylum seekers coming in because they're fleeing something absolutely horrible and we are giving them a safe haven. And I think one of the issues we've had is that the people who are in favour of immigration, who are in favour of providing a haven for asylum seekers, have not wanted to have the conversation very much. And this is what plays into reform, where they say, oh, you can't say anything, you know, you call us racist just for bringing up concerns. Well, there's been a bit of an issue in that I think that the people on the pro-immigration side have had a tendency to do that, instead of realising that actually you need to be able to go into communities and talk to people about this stuff, have serious, real conversations, get people together. That's how you get integration. You get people talking together. You ensure that people don't fall into separation of groups, which is, I think, what's happened in some communities. Now, the issue that I have with Farage is that when he's talking about these things, which let's say that some of these issues are real and that they're real concerns of communities, the angle that he's coming at it from is that immigration in any form is inherently a bad thing for society. But that's the sense that I get from the things that he said. I mean, what was the language that he used there? I think that's some cultural smashing. I think that's some pretty strong language. You know, I think we all have a sense of what Nigel Farage thinks and feels about these issues. Now, I think people need to start getting a bit more brave about standing up and saying, no, actually, immigration is just a thing that happens in countries. It's a normal thing. It can be a very positive thing. And I'm in favour of it. I support it. I understand why it's a benefit to my community. I understand immigrants are coming over here and they're working a whole range of jobs that are helping keep my community ticking over. It is a good thing. It's not a bad thing, and there's no reason why a kind of cultural mixing and integration has to be a bad thing. We need to get a bit more proud of immigration and stop feeling like we're on this defensive all the time, where actually it's better to just not talk about it. Stephen.
Yeah, look, a bit like Angela, I've got one young kid who's in primary school, albeit in Aberdeen, not in Glasgow, and I've got a younger kid who's in nursery just now, and many of their friends are bilingual and multilingual despite being really young. And, you know, the notion that a man who aspires to be the Prime Minister of these Isles would pick a fight with school kids, would seek to ostracise school kids, would hold school kids up as an object to beat, absolutely repulses me. And I think it should repulse all of you as well. And I hate to say it, I really do, but this confidence that he has to say some of these things stems from the fact that our current Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, called us all an island of strangers. Not Enoch Powell's words, well, they were, but they were also repeated by Keir Starmer. And this is a culture that we now have coming out of Westminster, and it does us all a massive disservice. Because you know those wee kids, when they grow up, they'll grow up to be our doctors, they'll grow up to be our lawyers, our nurses, our bus drivers, our videographers, our hosts. They'll be our friends, our family, our neighbours, and we should defend them as if they are our own, because those wee kids, they are our own, because they've made Scotland their home. And I'm